bravest of the brave, most generous of the generous. Never had a country more faithful friends than you.
Gurkha Riders Entertainment.
I'm representing my bloodline.
Once upon a time, 200 years ago, in a place far, far away, the kingdom of Elayit, some soldiers went out on adventures around the world over land and sea. They reached the foothills of the highest mountains in the world and asked the jolly people there to join their adventures too. And so a friendship was born. But did they live happily ever after? This visual paper explores fairy tales about the Gurkhas and investigates how Nepali diaspora youth in the UK have been inspired by the idea of the Gurkha soldier. How do young British Nepalis blend intergenerational transmissions of army culture to shape the ways they see themselves? How are these experiences projected, and how might these projections bring greater agency to render new Nepali histories? We start another tale of new beginnings, which is the story of the struggles for settlement rights. Despite the UK declaring Nepal as its oldest friend, it was only since 2004 that Gurkha soldiers and veterans were formally allowed to settle in the UK with their families. It also changed the demographics of the UK's Nepali population, making it composed predominantly of four main Janajati groups who continue to participate in ethnic revivalism, which colour what the diaspora youth experience as Nepali culture.
Martial clans in Nepal, and some of the clans, have this particular tradition of being the warriors, and I think that's what I suppose makes them such wonderful soldiers.
Moving to the UK, Nepalis find themselves in a land where there are constant public celebrations and reminders of Gurkha service in museums, memorials, and monuments.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, several times in recent years, one particular news item has inspired viewers to voice their opinions very loudly. The plight of the Gurkha veterans drew overwhelming sympathy and support. More than 200,000 Gurkhas served in both World Wars, eventually becoming part of the British Army. Members of the brigade have been awarded no fewer than 13 Victoria Crosses.
Trains are often named after kings, queens or castles. The newest arrival at Paddington this morning honours a Gurkha war hero. Tul Bahadur's children unveiling his name on the engine of a GWR Intercity Express train. Lieutenant Poon won the Victoria Cross for his bravery fighting the Japanese.
Ask any British soldier who's ever served alongside Johnny Gurkha, and you'll hear nothing but praise for his fighting prowess and his loyalty to comrades.
The statue was then revealed to applause, followed by a minute's silence, and then the laying of tributes. It was a proud moment for the Gurkha community.
And bravery that Kuldeep Thapa
courage, comradeship, compassion. Ma Kiwal Nepali Haroko Sahasik Saina Siwa Machanabai, Nagarik Sewako, Lagi Pani, Danibad, Dinshu, Jai Nepal, Jai UK. Namaskar.
What kind of man survives no man's land?
Stories of Gurkha service are also shared through citing examples of their Victoria Cross winners, recipients of British Army's highest gallantry award. Images of these 13 Victoria Cross winners are very familiar amongst the Gurkha community. In the meantime, documentaries and ad campaigns feature real-life contemporary Gurkha heroes.
It's the inside story of my incredible adventure.
In 2010, I was deployed to Afghanistan. We are very proud to do that. So I was just there and give my best. Suddenly went bang.
I had seen the two Taliban.
He was awarded the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross, which is second only to the Victoria Cross, and an absolutely just recognition of what he did that night.
I do really proud to being a Gurkhas because my grandfather and my father was also Gurkhas.
In Britain, Gurkhas were most recently visible in the public eye during Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. Amongst the grandeur of impressive military units on display, the British media also gave voice to Gurkhas on their service to the Crown. Gurkhas have made regular appearances in mainstream British press. This reputation extends even further into online spaces, where videos have been made by international fans and enthusiasts about Gurkha history and tales of bravery.
Yeah, I thought, before they kill me, I have to kill some of them. Good lad!
Gurkhas themselves create large social media followings through channels that document their lives as serving soldiers, pivotal in shaping contemporary discourses. The spectrum of online content produced about Gurkhas encompass both those who admire them as heroes and those who want to be a hero. It is also possible to play being a hero through the number of video games using Gurkhas and or kukuris as inspiration.
Ultra paradigm. As a new warrior together, you must acquire a
The kukuri has become a highly recognizable weapon in many games, and this recognition sits alongside the place of the kukuri in films and TV shows that have become part of global popular culture. These further propel fantasies which lead to actual production of kukuris in such varieties that are hardly recognizable in Nepal, becoming highly sought-after items for enthusiasts who then market them through video reviews online, propelling more fairy tales and fantasies about Gurkhas.
To the game, which is a forward curve dagger.
Far from these realms that project heavily militarized, martial, and often violent fantasies, Gurkhas also inspire other worlds in unexpected ways. Here is a United States luxury leather goods company.
We were inspired by the spirit of the Gurkhas, so this idea of fearlessness and adventure and bravery.
To a degree, always the same. Nothing changes him in the face of all the adversity.
They can be beat up, they can be dragged around the world, but are always absolutely beautiful. and almost beautified by sort of this rugged experience that they're taken through.
Stories about Gurkhas have also been woven into the marketing of the Gurkha trouser. This style developed out of shorts that Gurkhas wore and is also considered an elegant fashion item. Both the Gurkha trousers and handbags are styled after a different kind of Gurkha fantasy, that which Lionel Kaplan describes as the idea of Gurkhas as warrior gentlemen. This fantasy is a complex, active historical process from colonialist constructions that projects desires by how the British wish to see themselves. Gurkhas have also been used for branding in another menswear luxury accessory of sorts. It continues the sort of objectification and commodification of Gurkha identity by non-Nepalis that tend to glamorize colonization. The founder states, the idea of the Officers' Club was to provide a grand atmosphere abroad to keep the traditions of the empire alive in foreign countries. I wanted to make an opulent cigar that would have fit right into one of those officers' clubs. Away from the remnants of these officers' clubs, straight into the heart of the British Empire in Old Blighty, Nepalis find themselves amid sets of discourses that romanticize their heritage and find that they don't ease their everyday struggles of social mobility and integration as migrants and foreigners. Despite internationally famous Gurkha tales of bravery and prestigious positions serving the royal family, in the UK there are many people, particularly younger generations, who have no idea who or what the Gurkhas are. Global commodification and commercialization of the term Gurkha for marketing and branding has also stretched the term to be taken less seriously when erased from a national identity. Sometimes the ways in which the name Gurkha is used for what it symbolizes can be quite bizarre and even insulting.
Gurkha into the clear. Gurkha it is that prevails. Well, they've always thought this is a top-class animal.
In the meantime, diaspora youth embrace myths of martial races and internalize notions of bravery to both display forms of masculinities as well as create defense shields in face of hostility.
Young yellow would a living be ain't in my shoe, and if you was still you wouldn't last it.
The constant exposure to military events within families and the larger diaspora community becomes a source of imagery in fashion and the arts. Gurkha heritage becomes a source of pride depicted on the body from tattoos to t-shirts. Children of veterans and soldiers mix and remix military accessories and symbols. Young men are encouraged to join the British Army, and they also create music that overlap with popular themes of masculinities in British urban music that value notions of daring, bravery, and brotherhood. True hippie.
Gurkha's there.
Taylor about the fucking flex.
My vision is blurry. I told mama I'm sorry. To the people that care for me, people that love me, tell them don't worry. Hey.
Sons borrow clothing from fathers and uncles for fashion shoots. Both men and women participate in these gendered constructions of particular masculinity, which further evolve through queer, LGBTQ+ additions into Gurkha identities. In 2020, through the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, East and Southeast Asians in many parts of the world became targets of racism. Later in the summer of 2020, global Black Lives Matter protests also caught the attention of the youth. They began raising awareness amongst each other through forms of social media activism. These forms of activism set models for building awareness the next summer in 2021 when the UK's Gurkha hunger strikes took place. Veteran group Gurkha Satyagraha decided to work together with the COVID Alliance for Nepal UK in a series of protests calling the British government to donate vaccines to Nepal. Protesters began to carry signs with the slogan Gurkha Lives Matter. Once the hunger strikes were launched, images began to circulate on social media of the elderly protesting opposite Downing Street and the conditions they faced. These drew many young Nepalis to join protest marches alongside parents on a scale never seen before. Through social media, they witnessed the elderly subject to terrible weather conditions and police harassment.
But your officers have taken away the awning under which these old soldiers were afforded some protection from.
They have not eaten for how many days? Do you know that?
And they did put tents up to try and protect themselves from the weather. Karan Gurung, who is 60.
I have family who've served in the Gurkha regiment. I have a massive amount of respect for the Gurkhas.
The rallies drew young British Nepali social media and fashion influencers, musicians and artists, all children of Gurkhas, who then magnified awareness and attention amongst their peers. Nimsdai began to spread the word, which gave a huge boost to the public petition to hold a parliamentary debate on Gurkha pensions. These began to trend online through his British celebrity contacts. In Nepal, most social media influencers and celebrities, as well as the national media, were silent on the issue.
So we do not have to.
Through the hunger strikes, British Nepali youths encountered disillusionment with what they believed was the British state's affection for Gurkhas. Ruptures and discourses of Gurkha admiration through the racism encountered from 2020 grew further through the 2021 hunger strikes. They also highlighted the gaps in the intergenerational transmission of Gurkha histories within a diaspora community. The hunger strikes and further activities leading up to ongoing negotiations inspired children of Gurkhas and youth from the wider Nepali community to produce content for social media to spread awareness. Here are some examples.
The Brits and all, we're living together. We should have the same cost of living. Why was there a 16-fold difference?
यहाँको कुराहरु केही मिल्छ कि भन्ने विचार मात्रै बसेको हो न त म जानेवाला हो म छोराबारीले आइज.
Here are my thoughts. The hunger strike until death is staged again by the ex-Gurkha veterans. Collectively have served as bartered colonial servants for the British colony since the year 1815. The current indefinite hunger strike to me serves as a collective force that dares to decolonize the warrior race that Gurkhas are often romanticized in a very one-dimensional way. Acknowledge the bravery of the bravest with equal pay without diluting our history and open possibilities for the children of Gurkhas to secure Nepali citizenship and identity.
So to people who don't know what's happening right now, this is the annual pension for a British soldier compared to a Gurkha soldier. The difference is 948%. The Gurkha has been part of the British Army for almost 200 years. I would hope the government does something about this, because this isn't fair.
We want! Then this historical injustice against the British Gurkha soldiers and their families of Nepal. Enough is enough. No justice, no peace. loyalty versus equality. Ayo Gorkhale! Ayo Gorkhale!
हाम्रै गाउँको कुरा गर्ने हो भने धेरै मान्छे मरे के
In this mix of youth cultural expressions and marketing of Gurkha identities in various ways for consumption, this paper asks how these disparate contents shape Gurkha and Nepali history, to what extent and in what ways. How can we listen to Gurkha history amongst the noise of fantasies and fairy tales?